It was designed to be consumed. It didn't help. She passed out. Arms spread wide, silver hair twitching, flat on her back. I rushed over and made a clumsy attempt to wake her. "All right, don't faint. Please don't let me eat you." She stared at me like I was a bacon-wrapped velociraptor as she regained consciousness. She identified herself as the Zarnathi Confederacy's envoy in training, Valari of House Seth. It seems that as she was orbiting Earth to observe its colonies, her shuttle broke down. Now, you might assume that you would call in command and let the experts handle things after you made initial contact with an alien envoy. Well, I don't have a reputation for making good decisions. Command wasn't responding either. And after witnessing my chicken massacre, Valari became frightened of every human who attempted to approach. She requested that I defend her from my own species, of course. I concurred. What might go wrong? Using panic medication, Valari stayed by my side like a shadow for the following 2 days. I helped her become more fluent in English. She showed me how to meditate by silent breathing using the Zarnathi method, which primarily included humming in octaves I was unaware existed. Zarnathians originated on a peaceful herbivore-dominated world, she added, where it was a war crime to even think about consuming meat. She believed that people were more than just erratic. We had nuclear toys and were apex predators. Her terror eventually subsided into curiosity, though. She pointed to a strip of jerky I was chewing one evening when I was seated near the heating core. "Is that a creature's corpse as well?" I blinked. "Indeed. However, you say it as if I were wearing its hat." Slowly, she shook her head. "You eat so happily. As if it were singing to your soul." I chuckled. Well, healthy eating does something for people. Solace, recollection, and bonding. She cocked her head, clearly curious. So I described everything: burgers with pals after a difficult breakup, chicken noodle soup when you're unwell, and picnics with relatives. Food was more than just energy. It was feeling. I also noticed a change in her eyes. She tasted a strawberry 3 days later. I didn't recommend it. I promise. With an expression of steely defiance, she strode up to me after stealing it from the hydroponics dome. "If I die," she continued solemnly, "remember me as curious rather than as prey." Then she nibbled into it. Her gaze expanded. "It tingles." I smiled, "It's sweet." She bit into it again. Then another. She soon began to hoard everything in the colony kitchen that wasn't meat. Carrots, apples, and even tofu. It was like watching a toddler discover color as she learned food. She even began cooking, albeit poorly at first. But resolute. She gave me what appeared to be a green dumpling with sparkling sauce one evening. I refer to it as peace lump. "Give it a try." I paused. "What's in it?" "Vegetables. Spices. And a small drop of honey from my favorite flower." I bit into it. It was wonderful, too. She sat next to me that night, staring at the stars while her shoulder touched mine. "I'm afraid of you humans," she said. "However, you also captivate me." Peace in space, however, is short-lived. Command eventually called me back one morning and dispatched a transport. Captain Darnell, the head officer, was a tough cookie. Gruff, gray-bearded, and highly doubtful of my account. He snarled, "You're telling me that you made the initial contact, and didn't report it right away?" I said, "She was in a panic. Didn't have faith in us. I was attempting to protect her." He frowned. "And she believes in you now?" I looked over my shoulder. With keen eyes, Valari watched the interaction from behind the doorway. "She does." Darnell gave a grunt. "She will accompany us." "No. In front of her, I." His eyes narrowed. "You're keeping her safe." "She poses no threat," I asserted. "She is afraid. She is also learning." For crying out loud, she produces peace lumps. But Darnell didn't chuckle. However, Valari left before he could continue to debate. She spoke in a strong yet trembling voice. I won't object if your order calls for me to arrive. However, I request a bit more time. Until the following lunar cycle. He hesitated. Her eyes, so clear and quivering, somehow broke through his tough facade. All right, he answered sternly. One cycle of the moon. You will then receive a full debriefing, Envoy Valari. She gave a nod. He then departed. We were given 30 days. We created something I never would have imagined during that time, a life. In the vicinity of the oxygenator vents, Valari constructed an alien-human fusion garden. I learned the Zarnathi method of reading the stars from her. She learned how to roast vegetables from me. We made a joke. Argued. Cooked. She sat cross-legged by the fire one night and gazed at the now crispy chicken wing I was holding. Are you craving it now? I grinned. On occasion. Are you missing it? Perhaps. She had a contemplative expression. Eating animals may never make sense to me, but I know what it means to you. Then she touched my hand, leaning forward. And that's sufficient. My chest constricted. I gave her fingers a squeeze. You are sufficient. I packed her lunch on the day she went. No meat. Only a few nuts, her favorite veggies, and one-piece lump 2.0 she had cooked the previous evening. She stopped at the shuttle ramp, clutching the little lunchbox as if it were a holy object. Quietly, she said, I came here as an envoy. However, I depart as something else. What? I inquired. Her grin was bright and sorrowful. Yours. After saying that, she entered the shuttle. I received a message 2 years later. Encrypt. Encrypted. Frequency of Zarnathi. Authorization given. Cross-cultural interaction. First, food. Then everything else. A picture of Valari standing next to a shiny table laden with delicacies of alien-human fusion was attached. In her hand, too. A little skewer. Of chicken replacement for tofu. Advancement. I thought, even love. As I bit into a piece lump that tasted something like her, I grinned.
The blade trembled ever so slightly in her grasp as it hovered inches from his throat. It did not shake out of terror. It was a sense of expectation. Fury. It was genetically passed down for centuries and bred into her bones. After all, she was Emberin, made to be perfect, ruthless, and effective. Human, any final words? She inquired icily. With blood drying over his jawline, the guy shackled to the durasteel pillar lifted his damaged face. He forced a crooked smile despite the split lip and the deepening bruise across his cheek. Yes, he answered in a harsh voice. You're holding it incorrectly. Kalith blinked. She hesitated for 1 second. Just one. The alien blade she was holding, a weapon engraved with antiquated circuitry and humming with low, menacing pulses, hung in midair. She growled, You're making fun of me. I wish, said the human. But really, you're not holding on. Instead of using your hips to compensate, you're using your shoulder. The purpose of that edge is to flex with the blow. Instead of flowing with the weapon, you're battling it. She yelled, I've been trained to use the Anthelion edge since birth. He cocked his head. Then your training was incorrect. The quiet in the room became tense. A slight buzz of shipboard energy filled the Ravager's Mercy's command chamber around them. Unsure whether to step in, or just take in the spectacle, a few of Kalith's best guard observed from the perimeter. Kalith pushed the sword forward till the human's flesh was kissed. His throat had a narrow line of red. He didn't recoil. Rather, he studied her with his eyes fixed on hers, examining her, as if she were the defendant. He whispered, "Why haven't you killed me?" She didn't respond. She was unaware. Most people only knew him by the term ghost, which was whispered across the shadowy regions of space, but his real name was Ryan Vex. He was described in the records as a smuggler, a former soldier, and a drifter. However, others who had met him talked about something more, something inhuman, something that could not be killed. Kayleith hadn't believed the stories. So far, he shouldn't have made it through the Dekar 4 ambush. He shouldn't have been able to get away from the Ravager's Mercy's neural suppression field. And he most certainly shouldn't be that composed, bound and bleeding in front of her just before he dies. She gazed at him. He tilted his head casually, as though he was genuinely interested in her skill. Like he wasn't going to die. Her gaze flickered, and he saw it. "I understand your thoughts," Ryan remarked. "You're curious as to why I don't feel scared. Why I smile in the face of death." He gave the blade a nod. "It's because I've passed away already. Once, perhaps twice, and you would be aware of that if your records were important." Kayleith's hold became more firm. "You're not unique. You are merely another artifact from the disastrous battle on Earth, a leftover," Reen remarked. "Funny. You believe that the conflict is over. That's adorable." She cut. He ducked. Or more accurately, he moved, in a manner that shouldn't have been feasible. The chains broke. The sword fell to the ground with a bang. The force spread through the chamber like a shockwave. Ryan rushed forward, pushed her against the wall, and grabbed the falling sword in one hand in a single action. He muttered, his breath warm against her cheek. "Like I said, you're holding it incorrectly," the guards yelled. "Weapons up." With a growl, Kayleith pushed him away and slid away, grabbing her sidearm in the process. However, Ryan had already vanished. No sound, no thermal signature, no trace, only a rumble in the atmosphere. They shouted, "He's breached containment. Keep the command deck locked. Activate the internal sensors. Commander, I'm offline already." Heart thumping, Kayleith stood. He fell away. Not concealed, not shrouded. Simply gone. Similar to the tales. Similar to the tales they had rejected. Ghost wasn't a man. He was a message. Kayleith went over the security logs a few hours later. Not moving. Loops. Glitched video of her guards firing at nothing while backing away. Additionally, there was just one frame in which Ryan muttered the words, "You need to wake up," while staring at the camera. It wasn't sabotage. It served as a warning. That night, Kayleith didn't sleep. She researched. She searched the scant information the Emberan Empire had about him. There was more than battlefield gossip and combat documents. Files that were categorized were present. The transmissions were intercepted. Project EIDOLON is mentioned. Buried beneath the debris of the planet's final military records, this human augmentation project was long believed to be a hoax. Not all he was a soldier. He was created. It was 3 weeks lat. It was 3 weeks later. The Empire of Emberan consolidated its hold. In the border systems, rumors of revolt began to circulate. The responsibility of finding the instigator fell to Kayleith. She found a mining camp on Targan's Reach thanks to her intelligence. A barren place, hardly able to function, with dust storms capable of tearing flesh from bone. A peculiar signal in ancient Earth dialects was repeated by the outpost's beacons. Hold the blade right. Then it happened again, and did it again. The storm hit her landing. Through the shattered spires, the wind howled like banshees. Miners gathered in groups, silently and wide-eyed, watching her approach. A young girl, perhaps 10 years old, came up and raised a stick. She said, "Is this right?" The stick was taken by Calith. Instinctively, her hand adjusted, lowered the wrist, balanced the weight. The girl grinned. "That's what the ghost said." Calith sat by herself in her ship that night, repeatedly spinning the anthelion blade in her hands. Her heartbeat was in sync with its buzz. Ryan was on her mind, his odd composure, his disappearance, his remarks. What did he mean when he said, "Wake up"? Was it a metaphor? Alert? Or something more profound? Something ingrained in Emberan doctrine that she had never thought to question? The console sent a ping, an encrypted, almost unintelligible message. 6 filters were applied by her. One line appeared. "You have a chance to live because of him." Calith resigned and went back to Imperial space. An answer was required by the Empress herself. Calith remained silent. She disappeared into the outer systems, leaving behind her armor and insignia. She followed the echoes there. They took her to an abandoned ship that was partially submerged in an asteroid field. She discovered him there once more. Ryan. Older. Weary. But with a smile on my face. "You located me," he remarked. "I didn't look," she said. "I was gaining knowledge." He arched an eyebrow. "And?" Calith pulled out the blade of the anthelion, kept it going. He moved forward and examined her hand. Nodded. He whispered, "You're holding it right now." They then entered the stars together. Slowly, their movement increased. Silently recruiting, Calith and Ryan rekindled Earth-loyal colonies, freed former comrades, and blocked Emberan's supply lines. They taught others how to look as well as how to fight, the way to ask questions, methods for waking up. She became into more than just a fighter. She turned into a representation, evidence that even Emberan perfection is subject to change. As they set up camp on a wrecked freighter over Ventros 9 late one evening, Calith inquired, "Why me?" Ryan kept his eyes on his diagnostics. "Because you were hesitant. I became weak because of that." "No," he replied. "You became human because of that." They stood together in front of the Great Archive, the Empire's memory center, and an unfallen stronghold. During the last days of the Emberan era, the truth was inside. The actual past. Recordings of the Holocaust on Earth. Every Emberan creed contains lies. Commander Tavarik, Calith's erstwhile tutor, was watching over it. The Tavarik snarled, "You embarrass yourself." "And for what purpose? A myth?" The anthelion blade was in Calith's hand, not shuddering. Without hesitation, completely still, she remarked, "I used to believe in you." Tavarik made a lunge. She moved out of the way. Like lightning, the sword moved. Silently and with pride, Rian watched as she put the blade to her mentor's throat and disarmed him. "Any final remarks?" she inquired. Tavarik scoffed. Stepping next to her, Ryan whispered in her ear, "He is holding it incorrectly." Calith grinned. She then brought the blade down. He didn't have to be killed. The power of the truth was greater. According to legend, the Emberan Empire collapsed within a few weeks after the broadcast from the archive. According to some, the first peace crops were planted on New Earth using a plowshare made from the melted blade that Calith used. She still carries it, according to others. She will also explain to you why she fights. Because I once learned how to hold it correctly from someone.